Essential question. What would you do if you were president? If I Were President, by Catherine Steer. Illustrated by Diane DeSalvo Ryan. It would be great to be President of the United States. If I were president, that means after a big campaign with speeches and posters and TV ads, the people would have chosen me as their leader. Years of planning and hard work would have prepared me for that day.
President. The person who is in charge of one part of the United States government. The president is a leader. The president helps run the country. President.
Leader. A person who is in charge of something. Miss Bailey is the team leader. She is in charge of her team. Leader.
If I were president, I'd promise to preserve, protect, and defend the Constitution of the United States, because that would be my job.
Defend. To keep from harm. The helmet will defend my head. Defend.
Then I'd move to a mansion called the White House, with more than 100 rooms. And I'd have to remember my new address, 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue, Washington, D.C. If I were president, I'd start work early each morning in the Oval Office. Although I'd tried to do what's best for my country, not everyone would agree with my decisions. But I'd get help making those decisions from a group of people called my cabinet.
Oval. Shaped like an egg. The football is an oval. It is shaped like an egg. Oval.
If I were president, the people would be my boss, and I'd have to find out what they wanted. It wouldn't be easy. Different people would want different things. If I were president, I'd be in charge of the armed forces, the Army, Navy, Air Force, and Marines. If I were president, each year I'd give a speech to Congress called the State of the Union. All over the country, people would be watching and listening. I'd talk about how our country was doing and suggest ways to solve our problems. Imagine creating laws for a whole country. That's something Congress and I would work on together. If I were president, the agents of the Secret Service would guard me. Everywhere I'd go, they'd go too. If I were president, I'd travel in my limousine or in my own private airplane, Air Force One. I'd meet with the leaders of other nations. Maybe together we could work to improve our world.
Private. For use by one or a few people, not open to most people. My room is private. I allow only a few people in. Private.
Improve. To make better. I am trying to improve my writing. I want to be better at writing. Improve.
If I were president, I'd comfort families that had been in an earthquake, hurricane, or flood. Then I'd help them rebuild their towns. If I were president, one of my favorite jobs would be passing out medals to people who had done brave deeds. If I were president, my words and picture would appear in newspapers and magazines all over the world. Even my dog would make headlines. If I were president, the house I grew up in would be famous. People would ask my mom for a tour of everything, even my treehouse. If I were president, the people could only elect me twice. That's 8 years altogether. Soon, a new president with different ideas would move into the White House. If I were president, they might someday make a statue of me, like the white marble statue of Abraham Lincoln in the Lincoln Memorial, or the president's heads carved into Mount Rushmore. Or someday, my face might show up on the country's money. Did you know President Lincoln is on the penny? President Jefferson is on the nickel? And President Washington is on the dollar bill? And who knows, someday I just might be President of the United States.
Hi guys, I hope you enjoyed our story, If I Were President. Now our story was something called an informational text. And remember, an informational text is really just a story that's about real people or real places or real events. So our story gave us a little bit more information about what the president does. So now I have a few questions that I'd like you to try and answer. Our first question is, what would be the hardest part about being President of the United States? And why do you think that would be the hardest part? My second question that I'd like you to try and think about and answer is this. What is the most important job that the President of the United States has to do? And why do you think that's their most important job? My last question would be, what would you do if you were President of the United States? I hope you can take some time and think about those questions, maybe talk about them with your mom and dad. But I'm also hoping that you'll take some time now. I was just reminded as we listened to the story, God's put all kinds of leaders in charge. We have leaders in charge here at school. We have leaders in charge of our city, our state, and even our country. And God wants us to be praying for our leaders. So maybe after you answer these questions, you can take some time as a family and pray for our leaders. Pray for Miss Leach and Mr. Sullivan as they lead our school. Pray for our mayor. Pray for the governor who leads our state. And even pray for the President of the United States of America right now. I hope you guys enjoyed this. I look forward to hearing maybe what you thought about would be some of the most difficult parts of being president, or what would be some of the most fun parts about being president of the United States. All right, love you guys. Bye.